Good evening and welcome to This Week in Review. This week includes footage from the public meeting that was held on Monday night, some clippings from the aquaculture meeting, and an interview with the Recreation Commission, and more, so please stay tuned.
For almost a century, there's been a group of people working hard for Canada, fighting for this country. Now they are uniting to keep Canada together. The Royal Canadian Legion supports Canadian unity.
Monday night there was a public meeting with Mr. Ridge Anstey, Secretary-Treasurer for FFAW. Here are some highlights.
The reason you're not working now is not because the UI is so great. It's because there's no fish. And it's because the government mismanaged the resource, and as a result of a shrinking stock, we have nowhere to send our boats, and we have nothing to put to our plants. You're not here because UI is good. You're not here because you don't have reasonable skill levels. You're here because until this industry went sour, Burgeo was a good place to live and raise a family and make a decent living. That's why you're here. And whatever it takes to make sure that we have that right and ability in the future, we have to do that which is necessary to ensure government pays attention to us. And that's the real issue here.
So who's paying for that? I mean, you look at advertising free, right? So all of them things take consideration. That probably people will get more money for themselves instead of doing things. Plus, we need more things to do the moratorium than just wasting money on, right? That I and everybody else got to pay a price for it. When I get 28, instead of putting on advertising on TV, I'd probably give my family more money to get. You know? That's all I have to say.
This improving your odds course, I know it's been run off here. The union did not support that program. They developed it on their own. It's completely a program of HRD. And they have spent a lot of money on it. They've spent a lot of money on things that we believe are a waste. That's why we think it's so important here. Before they talk about making any kind of a cut to fishermen, to plant workers, to trawlermen, before they do any of that, what we've said to government is sit down with us. You know, we know you haven't got as much money as you had before, but there may be better ways to spend it. And if some bureaucrat in Ottawa does it and doesn't listen to us, then what we've told government is we think we're going to have a hell of a racket here. Makes more sense than blank trees.
We're the victims.
No question we are the victims. We didn't cause this to happen. The estimated seal herd population, depends on who you listen to, is somewhere around 5 to 6 million seals. A seal eats an average of 20 pounds of something every day. That's 300 million pounds of something every day that are eaten by seals. If they're in our waters for 100 days, that's 3 billion pounds that it takes to feed the seal herd. Now they may be right, a lot of that may be capelin or herring or something, God knows, but enough of it is caught to cause us a major problem. And it's certainly been our position, but I got to tell you that the government doesn't seem to be prepared to do much about it, Lou. But it's our position that the seal herd should be called. There's no question about that. When we hunted the seals, we had about 1 million animals. And it never went much above or much below. It hung around 1 million animals. And there's now 5 times that. We have seals in southern waters where we never saw them before. We have seals off St. John's Harbor. We have reports of herds of seals miles long.
Present here is to look for alternatives. There's a couple of real major problems out there. One obviously has been the foreign overfishing. The foreigners out there still fishing, while our plants got to stay idle. I think there are some things that need to be discussed over that. Brother Wynne presented one to me maybe a week ago, and I mentioned to Rick tonight, and he said he talked about it himself, thought about it. And that is taking some of these trawlers that we're not using, or can't be used, or are going to be sunk, and sinking in strategic places, like the Nose and Tail of the Grand Banks. And some of the other areas I think we should be looking at is the lack of initiative on the government's part. I mean, you don't hear government coming out at all and talking about creating long-term jobs. I mean, if they've got $3 to $4 million to spend to put people in classroom and talk about what have happened in the fishery, and somebody says all they learned was a packed suitcase, I mean, if they've got that kind of money, then, I mean, they really should be talking about long-term jobs. If they got millions of dollars, I mean, if they can find that kind of money to do some of these so-called useless things, then why don't they take a chance and risk some of this money into what could prove out to be long-term jobs for Newfoundlanders? So my question to Rich is there a strategy? Is there people sitting down and going to government with legitimate, good plans? Can we sit down as a union or as a community and come up with some alternatives, not going the same route that the government is going now, where all we're doing is talking about what's wrong in the fishery, but can we come up with some kind of strategy as a community and present them to government and saying, here, this is what we think should be happening. Let the fishermen, let the fisher persons, let the communities tell the government, this is where we want our money spent.
Well, again, I mean, that's what we're saying in all these meetings. I mean, the concern we have is that they aren't going to pay any attention to any of us that are in the industry. People in this industry do have ideas about things that'll work and about things that fit better. I mean, who knows better what'll fit the industry in Burgee over on the south coast than the people who live here?
Like, we people are on the south coast, like, you know, we're caught in between, there's too far we people to go, so we're on that in between so we can get a quarter. So the people on the south coast are in there too, like, you know.
That's a very good question. You know, these rallies are so important, and unfortunately, because I remember, you know, we've been down here to some great rallies in Burgeo. I didn't get down to the last one. Earl was down. I remember Earl telling me, Jesus, it was so impressive. And they got 2,600 people here in the community, 2,200, or everybody could walk or move at all. We're out in the rally. Just a mass of people that stretched way back out of sight on the highway, which is terrific. There was no media here. There were no cameras. There were no reporters. Unfortunately, and we're not you know, we can't control that. In order to get the media attention, because what you're about is getting a message to those who are making the decisions, to the people in Ottawa, to the people up in Confederation Building, that this issue is extremely important to men and women in the fishing industry. That's a good question. I'm glad you asked that, because one of the things that I meant to mention and didn't, we had the first session we had with Tobin, which might have been 3 weeks ago, something like that. Buzz Hargrove and Jimmy O'Neill. Buzz Hargrove is the national president of the CAW. Jimmy O'Neill is the national secretary-treasurer. They were both in St. John's and both attended a 2-hour meeting with Tobin at Hotel Newfoundland. Buzz Hargrove was also down for the rally on Sunday, and he also has met separately with Axworthy and has written asking for joint meetings between himself and Earl and others with Axworthy. So in terms of a national presence, the CAW has been and will be active. The other thing that we are designing is a program of adjustment where fishing industry people, plant workers, fishermen, and trawlermen would control where monies are spent in training, and would probably waste less money than is now being spent on courses such as improving your odds and others that I believe have limited value to people.
National effort, what we were doing on that scene. But seeing I'm on the floor, I'd like to elaborate a little bit more about what Owen was talking about. In regards to the federal government doing anything about the nose and tail of the Grand Banks. Personally, I don't think, you know, Brian Tobin, before he was elected, or when he was trying to get elected, said in 6 weeks or 2 months or something, you know, that he was going to have the foreigners out the nose and tail of the Grand Banks. He's had his chance, he haven't He haven't succeeded in doing that. He had done some negotiating, which have been going on for years. I mean, when he was in opposition, he was criticizing John Crosby because all John Crosby was doing was giving him lip service, and he wasn't putting any action forward. Now he's got a chance to do something, and he's doing exactly what John Crosby done. He's giving him lip service, and he's doing about as good a job as John Crosby done. They're still out there fishing on the nose and telling the Grand Banks, and they're going to have about the fish they want before they pull out the Grand Banks this year. They're going to be out the Grand Banks on 1st of April, yes, because they choose to leave, not because Brian Tobin drove off. And I think there are things that maybe the federal government can do if they're afraid to use force, which apparently they are. They're afraid to use the Navy. Not that we got such a great Navy, we wouldn't take on the world or anything, but I mean, he did make the promise, and you have to put the effort there. There are things that we can do that is maybe not so dramatic, but it can run interference and it can show the world that we're serious about what we're doing here. You know, I mean, we got trawlers that's rusting on a wharf. We got nothing else to do with them. You know, from the information that I can find is that 90% of the codfish that's dragged up on those intelligent Grand Banks is down the bottom trawler. If you can find strategic areas, and we got to sink the trawlers anyway, you got to be cleaned up. What better place to sink them than to sink when we're going to interfere with people who's destroying our stocks on those intelligent Grand Banks? Find strategic areas, sink trawlers to entangle their niche if possible. If can't, the very least they can do is run interference so that they got to be constantly on the ball to try to get around those things that's in there that's going to run interference on them. We got nets and ropes, I suppose, enough to almost stretch around the world a dozen times. We got nothing to do with that except to leave up the plant and let it rot. We take trawlers and take this stuff and carry it and run interference on it. If you don't do anything else, you're not creating any force against them. You're only running interference, which is probably almost will get as good results as if you sent the Navy, probably better than if you sent the Navy in. I mean, I don't know whether or not sitting down and listening to some of those ideas from communities and from people that I've been talking to, that makes more sense to me than anything that Brian Tobin is doing, or that John Crosby done, for that matter. And, you know, I mean, the other thing that keeps bothering me, and I got to say this, Ridge, in all fairness to you, I know you got some strategy in your head that you're not going to release to us regularly unexpectedly. But it seems to me that this issue is so big, as you kept pointing out, it's a national issue. You know, it's not to me, the argument is not, is it better for us to have a demonstration in the Hope Brook or in St. John's? To me, the biggest issue is, should it be in St. John's or should it be in Ottawa? Because we joined the CAW as a national union, and when we get national issues that impacts on the federal government, then we got a national body who will stand and fight by our side with us. And what we should be doing, I think, we should be planning, if this thing don't work out within the next, don't pan out as we think it should, but in the next 4 or 5 weeks, as you say, then I think we should be bringing this national issue to focus in Ottawa. And I think we should be saying to Buzz Ardrove and to his executive board, listen, if we ever needed you boys, we need you right now. We're going in the battle of our life, yes. And we're going to do it on the national scene, and we need you boys with us. And we're going to show the federal government that, look, we are not lazy down there. We're not here to accept handouts from you guys. We're doing it because we got to, not because we want to. We want to work, and we're coming up here to show you that we're going to fight to show you that we want to go back to work. And we got ways that we think that can be done, and we want you guys to sit down and listen to us, and we want to be treated fairly in this country, and we want the CAW to stand with us and fight and show the federal government exactly what we're standing for.
That's well said. You know, we've got, this is step one, eh? And that's really what we said on the waterfront. And I don't know in the end what it will take. But you ought to be prepared that in fact it may become necessary to do God knows what to find. The quality of life in Burgeo has changed forever and isn't even close to what it used to be. I don't quite know what measures we're going to have to take. My guess is it could be any and all of everything that you might think of. But we're going to have to be together, united. I don't have any doubt at all we'll have the full support of the CAW.
On Wednesday, March 2nd, 16 workers at the Royal Oak mine at Hope Brook were pretty shook up. A hydraulic hose ruptured, causing a fire in the mine. The 16 workers were in the mine at the time, but they followed all safety precautions and they went to a refuge station where there was water, oxygen, and phones where they can communicate to outside crew. I talked to the Royal Oak headquarters in Vancouver, and they informed me that all 16 workers were safe and no one was injured. At 10:30 p.m. that night, production had resumed. As everyone is aware, the 4 trawlers have been sold. These trawlers are expected to sell later next week. I tried to meet with the new owner of the trawlers, but... Good afternoon and welcome to the studio. This is representatives from the Marinas for Hagen Enterprise Limited, and this company purchased the 4 draggers from Seafreeze. Would you like to tell us what you're planning on doing with the draggers?
Well, we're sailing them across to Port Hawkesbury, and then from there we're looking for different types of employment for the ships, and if something comes through, then the boat will be put to work. And our thoughts were, if work is available, then we would be interested in hiring local people to crew them. But this is tentative on work being available for them.
Mm-hmm. So do you have any idea of how many you would be willing to hire?
Well, that depends on the amount of work available and the type of work available, and how long you have to stay out, and what is required of the boat.
Mm-hmm. If no contracts come up or nothing comes up, what will happen to the trawlers then? Will they just be put up, or?
If there is no work for the trawlers after a period of time, they will eventually be scrapped. But we will do whatever we can to try and put them to work, due to the fact that it's better to work them than scrap them.
Mm-hmm. How many crew members are on the draggers navigating them to Nova Scotia right now?
There is a crew of 7 men on each dragger going to Nova Scotia right now. The Alert is skippered by Keith McDonald, and the Nova is skippered by Max Dunford.
So all these trawlermen are from Burgeo?
Yes, they are.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Would you like to tell us a little bit of background about your company?
Well, we're in the salvage business, or scrap business, I guess, mostly. We take down buildings and stuff like that, and so when we heard about these boats, we thought we'd purchase them, and if we could find something for them to do, we'll use them.
Mm-hmm.
If not, we'll be cut up for scrap.
Okay. The equipment, now correct me if I'm wrong here, but the equipment that is on the trawlers has to be returned to Seafreeze?
Yeah,
Is that right?
there's some of the equipment got to be returned.
So you can't operate the trawlers without this equipment? Is that right?
Not really, I don't think, no. We'd have to probably get some other gear to run them, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So you have the equipment now to take them to Nova Scotia?
Yeah, yeah.
So you won't have it for when you start working?
No, we'll have to gather up some other equipment from somewhere else, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I guess we enjoyed being here, and we enjoyed working with the men. They're hard workers, and we're very happy and pleased with
Yeah,
the outcome, and made some new friends, and probably come back someday to visit.
That's good. Okay, thank you for coming to the studio.
We appreciate it.
yeah, thank you.
very much.
to grow. 'Cause if he's unwillingly forced to decide, he'll move without leaving and never arrive. Don't take a man from the life that he knows and tear up his roots and expect him to grow. And for God's sake, don't say how much greener's the grass, 'cause those
Ain't nowhere now. I better go to work.
Keep them cameras pretty steady, have you?
Hey?
Keep them pretty steady?
No, not too bad. No.
Eh?
Nah.
How many years of water?
I don't know.
Large, you was all miss water over there, where that one.
It's fine.
Man, you would never bring that, you never blow them out like over the
Oh, yeah.
furnace. The only way you get water, them ones blow them out with a or something like that. You can leak over there. I don't even know what you want.
March the 6th, dragger's leaving Virgil for the last time. So what two is this, Jim? You don't know. Yeah, she's got on surveys. She's got on surveys.
Lee Road.
No, but you got Wayne Biller aboard this one, so who do you get aboard the other one?
Cape Alert and Cape picked themselves to reach at 9 o'clock. March 6th for the last time.
Did you get that for if hurt, Wayne Builder will swim together?
You think you can do it?
Huh?
You can do it?
No, I said drown.
Yeah, you need it.
You know, do it with current day.
That's close, I suppose now it's out there.
No, I ain't gonna buy a blower.
What would you do to go? That's glass, now we got to cut that to the top off. We can get ear done now, of course, it's not. Not you, I don't think you need ear comb, but you. Yeah.
Well, they said date on coming?
Yeah.
No, date on camera.
Yeah.
The lead on back one now. All of them we can see should be on the back one.
She's always up that one, isn't she?
Yeah, it shouldn't be. Sweet.
So what will that, if cops saw that?
Of course, if there ever an accident, then can have late. Somebody get. Do you swear that is?
You just put that on the table. Oh yeah, he's in.
Oh.
Oh, I'll get up. You get here for last time.
Didn't even blow the one glitch this time.
Max did go. Plenty.
That's probably why.
You see what that one?
I says, well, woke you up there, Phil. The dragger. We'll woke you up, eh?
My TV.
So you figured you knew I boarded you?
I also know I boarded that first one.
First one. Gotta be the first one on it. Gotta be somebody board the first one.
Yeah, well, I know I boarded the second one. Yeah, what's it gonna do with these bolts now?
I don't even know sure.
I thought they were going to PEI.
Yeah, well, it's probably going to be, yeah.
They can't get it because there's too much ice or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it right?
Well, you'll get PEI,
There wasn't clear.
on it.
I met with Mr. Gord Tucker, the coordinator for the Recreation Commission, for an interview. Good afternoon, Mr. Tucker. Welcome to the studio. Mr. Tucker is one of the coordinators for the Recreation Commission. How many members do you have on the Recreation Commission right now?
Well, the Recreation Commission has 10 members, and right now we were looking for a few new ones because some of them are gone out of town. go to school in Corner Brook and different things. But in our constitution, we're allowed to have 10 members and 1 liaison from the council.
So what is the main focus or the main goal for the Recreation Commission for this year?
Well, the Recreation Commission, they're supposed to look after all aspects of sports in the town or recreation, and in the way of, helping with grants or any way we can. But our big focus since we started the Recreation Commission was to try to get an arena for Burgeo. And I guess, a few people have heard about it and a few people haven't, right? But that is the main goal right now. And
so I know that you did a telethon to raise money for help with the fundings for the arena. Would you like to tell us where some of the fundings went?
Yeah, okay. So I think we raised approximately $18,000 on the telethon, and right now we had to get a feasibility study done from Atlantic Engineering and submit it to the government, and this study cost $6,000 to be done. And we have a copy at the town hall. If anybody is interested in seeing it, can go to the town hall and can see it, the blueprint for the building or the type of building we're trying for, and all the requirements for the building is listed in it.
There's this regional funding that is a share between the federal and the provincial and the municipal government. And would you like to tell us a little bit about where that can probably come in for the Recreation Commission?
Yeah, well, right now there's applications that have to be sent to the towns to access this money, and I think it's a 3-way split between the federal government, provincial government, and the towns. But they have priorities on the money, and if the town has a bigger priority than recreation, then it has to go to this. So, but we will be looking into it and hoping probably there may be some money come our way for that. And you can do probably certain stages if we need to of the arena, proposed arena.
Would you like to give us a little follow-up on how far you've come now with the arena?
Well, like I say, when we started first, the town asked us, just as a body of people, could we investigate like the possibility of an arena for Burgeo? And we couldn't get anywhere unless we formed the Burgeo Recreation Commission before you were even recognized. So after doing this, we approached government people, and they said we had to have a study done. Just can't be done by anyone because someone has to be sort of liable for if anything ever happened. So we consulted Atlantic Engineering, and they did the study. And right now we had the study sent to the government in hopes of accessing money from capital grants that will be cost shared by the town and the government, possibly on an 80-20 basis or 75-25, because you're talking about big dollars, so you have to have that kind of funding. And if they come along and says we need a certain amount of money, then we can know what share the town would have to raise in order to make this possible.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Not really, but like if we could get a set figure from the government on what we need to raise, then we could try to bring the town together. Instead of everybody working at a different level, like sinking money into our whole rink up there and different things, then we could all bring it together and try for one big thing. But we need to know figures, and if the government don't come along with the actual amount, then it's kind of hard for us to take it to the town, and this has been our hang-up of telling people, because we could give the wrong figures, and we don't want to do that.
So is there anything else that the Recreation Commission is working on away from the arena?
Well, right now we're trying for grants for kids on the ball field and things for the summer, and like we're looking at the playground and see what work needs to be done there, and see if we can have monies for that, and different organizations who need help. If they come to us, then we have to try to access money from the council or from different government people, whatever need be, right?
Okay, great. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you.
The latter part of this week, the weather had turned around for the worse. We had poor road conditions, power outages, and the ferry was stormbound at Burgeo for the day. The power was out due to wire and cable breakdowns, and the road conditions were poor. But the hydro crew and the town council crew ran it, and before long, everything was back to normal. I visited with the graduates from the computer course last week. They all seemed to enjoy the course, and the instructor seemed to be very impressed with the students. Congratulations, graduates. I met with Mr. Eugene Ball, the wildlife officer, about the Turr hunting statistics. It has been reported that over 2,500 Turrs have been killed so far this season. Here's the interview. Good afternoon, Eugene, and welcome to the studio. Eugene is a representative from the Newfoundland Labrador Wildlife Division. What is the period of the Turr hunting season for this year?
This year we had some changes. This year the season didn't open until December the 18th, I believe it was, and it's going to run until March the 10th. I think all the seasons then will be closed at the same time, the sea ducks and the southern coastal zone. Everything will be closed on March the 10th. Whereas in past years it used to be open until the 31st of March.
I'm aware that you requested from the tour hunters some statistics and information with their daily tour hunting. Can you
Okay,
explain?
basically it's being done by the Canadian Wildlife Service, or is aided up by the Canadian Wildlife Service. They're very short of staff, so we're taking the information like wildlife officers in the coastal parts of Newfoundland, and we also had Donald Benoit working with us, and Kevin Thorne is presently working with us, and they've been making phone calls to hunters and taking information from them, and as well as boat checks by us. You wanted to know the type of information?
Yeah, you can, yeah, give us a
Okay.
little bit of information.
Some of the stuff that we're just looking for basically is the location the birds were shot, the crew names, or the people that was out in the boat and the day that they shot them, the total number of birds that they killed, the number of birds that had oil or tar on them, the time that they left to go out and the time that they left to come in, or the time that they got in, the number of shells that were fired or used, the amount of gas that was used, the numbers of murs that they killed, and the numbers of Turrs. Okay, so if there were 60 birds in all, we'd like to know like how many Turrs there were. So if there were 52 Turrs and 8 murs or whatever. And let's see now. We'd also like to know the distance from Burgeo, or wherever they live from, and the boat size, the type of boat, whether it's fiberglass, wood, or sail, and basically that's about it. And just other things like the ice and weather and sea conditions.
So have you been getting a lot of response, a lot of cooperation from the tour hunters?
People have been extremely cooperative. Everybody seems to be fairly interested in it. There's been a number of birds shot with bands on them, and what we're requesting is that you just flatten out the band that you get and just put it in the envelope. And there's an address here that I'm going to get you to put on Channel 10 for anybody that do get a band. That
What's the band?
It's just when the birds were younger, basically, usually when they're chicks, that Canadian Wildlife Service banned a number of murs in different parts of Newfoundland and well, probably as far away as Iceland or wherever. And with a number on them, and basically what they can tell from this is, say if they banned a bird in Fortune Bay in, say, 1991, and they can tell where the birds are migrating to or going to and this sort of thing from the place that they were killed.
So all the statistics that you're getting from the tour hunters, what do you need so much information on, like such specifics?
Turrs are a bird that we haven't had a whole lot of information. Basically, you don't need a license to hunt them. There's been a lot of problems in the past, not necessarily in our area, but in other parts of Newfoundland, where there's been tremendous numbers of birds shot. And in Fortune Bay last year, I believe there was something like 14 or 15,000 in 1 week shot, and a lot of those birds were being sold. A turr only lays 1 egg, and it takes about 4 to 5 years before it actually lays an egg. So there was a very big need to find out how bad the populations were, like if the birds are on a decline or whatever. And we need more information on them in order to decide what you're going to do with regards to seasons and bag limits and this sort of thing in the future.
So what is the bag limit for this year?
Right now it's 20 birds per runner per day, and there's a 40 bird position limit for 2 days. Like you'd have to be off for 2 days. One fellow can basically do most of the shooting. Like if 3 people went out in the boat and I was back on the engine, then they could take 20 birds from me as well. I don't necessarily have to be the one that they gotta get up and shoot my 20 birds or anything like that. Okay?
Yeah. So are most people abiding by this bag limit and the regulations that's in for this year?
We've been doing periodic boat checks, coastal patrols in just the Burgeo area, and I must say that everybody seems like they're abiding by all the regulations. We haven't had any problems to date, and we hope this continues in the future. Most everybody that you checks, they pretty much got their 20 birds per person, and they're probably on their way in. So that's excellent.
Yeah, that's true. So all these regulations, that the new ones that came in this year, are they also going to be in effect for like the next few years as well?
Well, this is one of the reasons why we're trying to obtain this information, or the Canadian Wildlife Service is actually trying to obtain it. From this information, they're going to decide what to do in say next year and the year after or whatever, by getting those Turr monitors like Donnie and Kevin, and by getting this information, they decide basically if the season should be shorter or longer, if the bag limit should be cut back or increased or whatever. So that's basically that's why you're getting all this information, just to give them some idea of how many birds are actually being shot each year in the province of Newfoundland.
Okay. Is there any other issues that you'd like to touch on?
Not really. I can't think of anything offhand. I think that the main thing is that everybody's abiding by the regulations. We don't have any problem with anybody around here with regards to turn running. In fact, we're really pleased to see everybody abiding by the regulations. If anybody get any questions regarding any of the new regulations or anything that comes up in the future, then feel free to call. And I'd also like to stress the fact that if people knows that there's stuff going on, like with regards to selling of the birds or anything like that, that we'd be interested in knowing it, and they could remain, could be an anonymous phone call or whatever, just letting us know actually what's going on. The person would not have to actually get involved with anything. Yeah?
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Okay.
The Adams Hockey Division went to St. George's to compete in a hockey tournament this weekend. They played very well and very hard. Even though they didn't win the tournament, they are all winners for putting their best into it and giving the opponents a good competitive game. An aquaculture seminar was held this week as well. There was a big turnout.
So there are other areas of fish farming that I've got some knowledge of, that I've been able to pick up by working with people in Newfoundland and in some other places. The other part of my experience that may help answer questions, or maybe it won't answer any questions. I learned most by listening rather than talking. But another part of my background is the job that I have now with the Marine Institute. Some people in the room may have had reason to go to the old College of Fisheries, as it was first known, out in the center of St. John's, or you may have had reason to visit the Marine Institute in St. John's, or you may have had some association with what I'm going to call West Viking College, the West Coast, the community college that works in this area. We in the Marine Institute, which is just a building in the center there by Golden Building, we in that building have a group of Newfoundlanders predominantly who have some knowledge of the fishing industry from experience. I mean, there's wet fish trawler people working there. There's people who have had experience in the processing side working there. And there are some inshore fishing people working there. And there's people like myself who have none of these experiences but have spent some time studying in a classroom, in university or somewhere else, or learn some things by working occasionally with people who practice the fishing industry. The fishing industry is this harvesting side, processing side, and the new side I get excited about, the farming side, the aquaculture side, which is slowly coming around, right, the farming side. We know what's happening with the other two, right? There's slow growth on the farming, the fish farming side, and I can't tell anybody here anything about what's happening on the harvesting side.
The food for thought for this week is, what we see depends mainly on what we look for. Our team of volunteers here at the PBS are working on a production called Pansy's Garden, previously known as Storytime. From a survey circulated around town, our volunteers concluded that we would begin production again, and the first show will be on March 26 at 11 a.m. Well, that's the end of our show for another week, but please stay tuned for the bandwagon. On behalf of BBS and BBS volunteers, I'm Dina Marsden, wishing you a great week. Good night.